Let's catch up with Talking Back the Night regular Nathan Bray. How you going?
Hello, Christian. Hello, everybody.
Obviously, the situation in Syria tonight. For those people who have seen the footage and have heard the stories but don't exactly know why or what the backstory is, why did it happen?
April 4th, we saw a terrible chemical attack in Idlib in Syria. Now, the Syrian leader, Bashir al-Assad, he was immediately blamed, so there was no investigation or proof. Now, Rex Tillerson, now he's the current Trump U.S. Secretary of State. He came out saying that Bashir al-Assad is responsible and there is no doubt in his mind, which is pretty scary. You don't have any proof, but you also have no doubt in your mind.
Okay, what would be the motivation if he was guilty of this? And a lot of people are pointing the finger without, as you say, really knowing. What would be the motivation?
Honestly, Christian, I've got no idea. I want to point out a couple of facts for you here. So remember, this all happened 2 days before peace talks were about to start in Europe for Bashir al-Assad. My question is the same as yours. Why would Assad do this? It makes no sense. And there have been people speaking throughout the world asking this same question. I mean, it's like your favourite football team. I know yours is Collingwood. They're battling all year as the underdog. They've got injuries, losses. They make the grand final. They're 8 goals up at half-time. And then they decide to, start snorting illicit drugs in the sheds at half-time with the media present?
Yeah.
There is seriously so much doubt. It makes no sense for Bashir al-Assad to go ahead and do this. I mean, he was once accused of it in 2013, and of course, that all turned out not to be true after UN investigations, which I'll get into in just a moment. So the Russian military on the ground, they say that Assad was bombing ISIS and other Islamic rebels, and a warehouse of chemicals was hit and a leak occurred. Now, the New York Times backs this up. They said previously that the Islamic State has used chemical weapons, including chlorine and sulfur mustard agents, at least 52 times on the battlefield in Syria and Iraq since it swept the power in 2014. And these are according to independent analysis. Now, UN Inspector Del Ponte concluded that it was the Islamic rebels who enacted the chemical attacks, as I mentioned, and not Assad in 2013. And this is not to mention that John Kerry himself was tweeting to the world that the US had confiscated all of Assad's chemical weapons stockpile in 2014. So, you ask the question, what the hell was he using? There was even a journalist, and this is pretty freaky, in the Middle East who reported the chemical attack, the most recent chemical attack, 24 hours before it happened, which is very, very strange indeed. So the response on April 6th, okay, 2 days later in 2017 this year, it also marks 100 years to the day that the US entered World War I. So at 8:40 on April 6th, the US sent 59 Tomahawk missiles to the Syria airfield in Syria. Basically, they're targeting aircraft shelters, radars, petroleum, and they even gave Russia a heads up that they're going to do it. And this is the thing that really got me this week. I have no idea why Donald Trump would do this, because Trump ran for president on getting congressional approval before attacking foreign countries. So in 2013, he's got 45 quotes, which I won't bore you with, but I'll give you a couple. He comes out and says, what will we get for bombing Syria besides more debt and a possible long-term conflict? He says Obama needs congressional approval. And then, of course, he fires 59 Tomahawk missiles without congressional approval or asking anybody or getting any facts. And remember, that's $100 million worth of military equipment that the US people are on the hook for now. They're in debt for without even having a say. He also came out and said, what we should do is focus on ISIS. This is what Trump told Reuters. We should not be focusing on Syria. You're going to end up in World War III over Syria if we listen to Hillary Clinton. And of course, what does he do? He literally goes in there with 48 hours and starts bombing the hell out of the place. So, and an interesting fact is that it takes 10 to 11 days to prepare for such an attack. So a large system of measures of reconnaissance planning, preparation of flights, etc. And you have to get the missiles to launch ready.
He seemed pretty ready.
That's right. So you've got to start asking the question, why was Trump doing this? Now, we know Trump has been under a lot of policy pressure. He's been running on the idea of building a wall, repealing Obamacare, which he's failed at. There's immigration, stopping, a lot of countries are able to bring, Muslims into the country. And of course, that's been held up and that's failed, along with a whole bunch of other legislation. Yet, if he turns around and says, I want to bomb a foreign country, right, they all let him do it within about 48 hours. So you can imagine the military-industrial complex is rubbing their hands together. The idea of peace to them would be terrible. He's also kowtowing, I guess, down to Israel, which he did do during his election. And I think what he's trying maybe to do is keep the neocons and the military-industrial complex happy. So the question is, was this the stupidest move? Because his own people, his own supporters will be up in arms against him. One of the thoughts is he may be playing this 4D chess, and this could all be part of some master plan. Because remember, Donald Trump's IQ scores off the charts. He got into the one of the toughest business schools to get into with extremely high marks, etc. Along with his other academic history. You would start asking the question, why would Donald Trump do this? And I guess we're just going to have to follow these stories for the next week to really find out what is going on here.
Well, what's the general consensus about Trump feeling that he had to act on this kind of footage?
I do understand it might be a full-on emotional reaction that he's having. But who are you attacking? You don't know who did this. One of the questions that was raised too about these videos is they're starting to look at the videos and saying, well, if it is sarin gas, then there's a lot of the people assisting, the injured people on the ground. They're not wearing hazmat suits. The reporters weren't wearing any hazmat suits. The doctors weren't. They would also be being affected. So they're starting to ask the question exactly what's going on with these videos. And we know that the white helmets who have been, punching this out there, they've been guilty themselves of recycling victims in their videos in different locations. I know one young girl that they've used, Dusty Boy. They're very much a group that also won an Oscar, for their documentary. But they're a group that's, been very heavily tarnished in their reputation for, being part of the Syrian rebels by night and sort of activists by day. So they're a group that a lot of questions are being asked. So just using those videos alone is a tough one. The other thing is you've got their proof was that on radar they saw these Syrian planes go in and of course drop bombs on the rebels, on ISIS. And they're saying that's the proof. Well, it's like, were they dropping chemical bombs? Do you have any proof on the radar of that? So, I think potentially this is a really, really dumb move. And I would suggest that he's smarter than that. And therefore, maybe he is trying to do this because he's suffering, he's weak at the moment domestically.
Bashar al-Assad, is the world waiting for some kind of word from him? Or as he said much over the weekend, something strong one way or the other from him?
Assad has come out and said, all you've done is assist ISIS. All you've done is assist Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda have, as a result of the fact that the airfield has been bombed, means that they don't have an air force other than, you might say, the US, as in ISIS, right? So therefore, Assad had the upper hand and was winning the war. And of course, he's saying the only thing you're assisting is ISIS, because as a result of the airfield being bombed, now ISIS was able to take a huge step forward into areas like Palmyra, etc. So, you've got Ron Paul, etc., from the Ron Paul Institute coming out and saying all you're doing is assisting ISIS and allowing them to get an upper hand by bombing Assad so quickly. So it's a total, it's very hard to get your head around why Trump has responded the way he has.
We have mentioned Syria being there or thereabouts in Obama's time, but what happened last week or early last week, things like that in Obama's time that he didn't move on?
True, we did. Well, he wanted to put boots on the ground. Okay, so he was using the chemical attacks as an excuse to put boots on the ground in Syria. So let's be honest about this, folks. This is about a gas pipeline going through that, as Bashar al-Assad said no to. And of course, the West is serious about that. That's really what this is about, if we break it down. A gas pipeline going to Europe through Israel. And of course, we suddenly had we had all the people come back from Libya and create ISIS. And that's what we're talking about here. And I think the West, the US, the UK, etc., they all wanted that to happen. And it's not a civil war to start. It's not a civil war there anyway. You've got people from all around the globe fighting against Assad. And I think it's really because of that reason.
Nathan Bray, thank you, mate. We'll catch up again same time next week.
Thank you, Christian.